Exactly. So let me give you a little bit of context. Um, I recently watched an interview where Simon Sinek, who is also very passionate about leadership, as you know, where he gave this metaphor, and he said that he feels leadership is very much like parenting, because he feels not everyone is meant to be a leader, just like not everyone should be a parent, and that leadership is something you need to want to be. And he also feels like parenting is very similar because you need to want to be a parent. Just because you can make babies doesn't mean you should. And so, just because anyone could be a leader doesn't necessarily mean they should be, unless they really, really want to, because it requires a certain level of um, commitment and passion and drive that cannot be forced on anyone. And he made it seem like what creates that similarity between leadership and parenting is the fact that as a leader, you are always worried about your people, your team, the group of people that you are leading toward whatever victory. And there's always a lot of relationship management that you need to do. There's so many different aspects of it. For example, you can't play a short-term game. You have to think about the long view, and you need to be ready to invest a lot of your own energy, resources, your vision, your ideas, without necessarily expecting a direct reward, which is kind of similar to parenting as well, because with parenting, it's a long-term investment. You do the best you can. You give every single minute of every day. Most parents are constantly worried about their children, but there's no guarantee that all that giving is going to amount to an amazing relationship with your kids once they grow up. It doesn't even mean that everything you're providing now will lead to having successful children when they grow up. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to parenting. And so that's his take. What I would love to hear from you, Heinz, is this a concept that aligns with your principles and how you approach leadership? And if so, in what ways? And if not, how does it differ and what would be your take on it?
Thank you very much. Great question. So for me, the first thing, when I hear the word parenting, which probably is the case for all of us here in this session, this doesn't make us think about the future. This makes us think about the past, all the memories. And depending on how our, let's say, receiver side on parenting has been, we have a different approach to everything connected, parenting and leadership. So that is the first very important thing to me, because depending on how we receive this word parenting and what it does with us, we are not where me personally, I see the leader. The leader is in the future. Although he or she is totally present in the now with his or her spirit, she or he is way ahead. And of course, you have definitely parents who have their horizon not in the here and now, but way out 20 years later. So that's just my first point that I'm making. And I want to be careful with this, because parenting, depending on how it has been on the receiver side for us, we might be feeling a kind of dependence on the parents as being a child. So they tell us what to do and what not, and we need to learn rather quickly to be compliant to their model of the world. And leadership for me is very different in that aspect, because leadership, and the way I perceive it, leadership is making higher demands on ourselves. Number one, we can only be a good leader when we ourselves know deep down within that we are on purpose. And that answers part of the question you have asked, whether is everybody a leader? Everybody has qualities of leadership within. Not everybody will be finding a way as how to express it and bring it to fruition in a way that encompasses the being, identity, the doing, the mission, and leading the way, that is vision. So in such a way, Jeanette, the leader has a different agenda from a parent. In very, very many aspects. What I would, in this situation, look for is, what is my intention as a parent, respectively as a leader? My intention as a leader is not, first of all, on my benefit, which differs the leader or separates the true leader from any manager. You've heard me say that already. Then the second thing is, when I look for the benefit, for the win-win of everybody involved, it starts with the receiver. So I take the approach and the intention of a mentor, which clarifies then between the leader and the parent very much. Because as a mentor, I do not teach my children, which parents do. As a mentor, as a leader, I do not teach my staff, my team, my employees. That would not be leadership. That would just be managing the system and having people follow through. And that would just lead to naked performance, which is not what I, Heinz, am about. My core is answering the question, how can we take this so-called naked performance and take it higher into impact, into meaningful effect. And that is where the manager's capabilities are no longer sufficient. That is why it's so important nowadays to grow beyond, because you heard me say, the lifetime of managers is over. So I would actually be keen and say, the lifetime of parents, of the old school parents, is over. It's time to grow beyond. It is to check out new possibilities as how to become the best mentor of our children. Because then it's no longer about teaching, it's about inspiring. Now, you can tell me, oh, I had situations, everyday situations, where inspiring just doesn't help, because there are some rules within the family, household, and schedule everybody needs to follow. That is to be agreed upon. So I do not have the intention to dive deep on the parenting issues. Actually, I have 3 adult daughters on this planet. And So I know what we're talking about. I have been there. I have done that too. And I did my best. And by doing my best, I did produce many errors that I have seen as errors at that time. Nowadays, I see them as learning elements, as a learning curve, which finally has brought me up to express what I'm just sharing with you now, which is, for me, it's not about parenting in the business world. For me, it's about mentoring, enabling those human beings that we are entrusted with to lead on the path to success, to enable them to grow beyond. What that includes is that everything I, as being the leader, have already achieved in this corporation, to expose it, for instance, to the next generation of leaders, in order for them to grow beyond and take it beyond with new avenues, different approaches. So they take my stuff and they rearrange it, make it even better for tomorrow. And only to the extent that I am open to this, will this venture be successful. Whereas, now I take it back to the same place. Have you ever observed yourself, Jeanette, or you, dear viewers of this session? Have we ever seen ourselves in situations where there was only one way? We said, listen, children, my way is the highway. This is not negotiable.
I think that's how I run my household. I am absolutely guilty of that. So, this is not leadership.
Yeah. So, and in that situation, leadership is not a pure and perfect thing. Leadership is an authentic, credible expression of who we are. And who we are is shaped primarily by our intention. What is your intention as a leader? What is your intention as a parent? And that will shape the way you either produce followers without asking any questions from the followers to the parent or to the so-called leader. And my way is rather to get to know beyond the actual performance, the future potential of the next generation leaders, and then lead them based on this, which includes making higher demands on themselves. And because I then believe in their potential, and this is why I make higher demands. I do not just make higher demands because in the Q1 result we need a million more of margin or whatever. No, I check the potential.